Well, Robbo, 350 plus appearances, many years at the club, many players come and gone, but now we want you to name your greatest 11. You can name yourself if you want to, but we're going to go traditional 4-4-2 formation. So first of all, many good goalkeepers at your time during the club, but who's the greatest?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one for many reasons. Breaking through, I played in front of Tony Warner, who was obviously a great character, great person around the place, and good goalkeeper as well, flipping it. Good goalkeeper. And then it'd be 40, so it'd just be probably a straight fight between sort of them two, I'd say. Sort of having played most of my career, most of my successful times in front of 40. I think I'd probably just sway towards 40 just for that, really, that we spent probably more good times together. And, it's really hard to split them as goalkeepers, but I'd probably lean that way, yeah. So I'd have to put 40 in goal.
Can I just ask you, before you kick on, one question. Denzel, the FA Cup final, because obviously the year before had been outstanding, and for some reason they'd fallen out with the manager and didn't get really looking under Dennis Wise. And then Marshall come in and played well. But it must have been, having spent so many times sat on a bench for Liverpool for major finals, it must have been a bit more galling, if you like, no disrespect, to have been sat on a bench for Millwall at a major final.
Yeah, I think
you were near him.
Yeah.
What was he like?
Yeah, no, he was all right. I think that he's broken his patella, hadn't he? I think actually, so he was injured. To be honest, there was a little group. There was Muzzy, Kevin Muscat, who was injured. I was injured. A couple of others. Nick Chadwick, who was here, who I don't think he could play because he was cup tied. And then we had obviously Tone, who was injured, I think. But like you say, there'd been a couple of issues where I think basically he wasn't going to sign a contract. So where he wasn't going to sign a contract, I think that they basically put him to one side. So I think he probably found that there was issues there between the clubs or whatever at the time. But yeah, they took us as part of the group, but we ended up just a little side school really. We had a couple of nights out in Cardiff to drown our sorrows and try and take away the fact that none of us would be playing in the FA Cup final really. So we kind of built a bit of a group mentality in that sort of adversity of not being able to play, but it kind of got each other through, and we've got some sort of good experiences to tell as well.
Talking of David Ford, obviously you were within earshot of him on the pitch quite a few times. What was he like to work with? Because I'll tell you a little story. I met him once. I won his goalkeeping gloves as part of a competition the club ran, and he
classic mileage from that. Proper Millwall.
Do they fit you now or not? Big hands.
I didn't know you had two left hands.
He wears them in the office. That's why there's so many spelling errors in the programme. He's wearing them.
He's only trying to get me back because of the Neil Warnock stuff earlier on. That's all he's doing.
I've got to get him back on one stage.
I'm not even going into anything else. It's coming to me next.
What I was going to say was he scared me within literally 30 seconds of meeting him. So what was he like to be in front of on the pitch, especially maybe when a mistake had been made or a goal had been conceded?
Probably exactly as you would think. He could be an angry man. He could let you know, but then you take it because if he was right, he was right, and you just go with it. Really, I think that first pre-season that he signed, I think him and Framo nearly had a little set to on the training pitch in pre-season. And you're thinking, oh, okay, this could be interesting between the two of them. So I think as well with Fordy, as long as you feed him, he was all right. He could be a hungry man at times. So as long as you gave him his food, he'd be all right most of the time. But like I say, if you made a mistake, you knew about it and he'd soon let you know. But that kind of drove you to perform better.
You were, of course, a centre-back, but you had a right-back and a left-back either side of you. Who would you name as those two?
I think just someone I learnt a lot from and just everything about him was probably Kevin Muscat that early in my career. I know that he perhaps has got that slightly edgier side that people talk about, but he had that. What he had was that Aussie will to win mentality and that flipping ruthlessness to do it. But also maybe he was someone that was so good to be around, such good company, and just make everyone feel part of the group and everyone feel comfortable. That for me, he had that both sides where he was ruthlessly will to win on the pitch, but then just a real great person to be around off the pitch. So I'd have to go Kevin Muscat at right back.
Left back?
Yeah, left back. Left back's a tough one. There's probably quite a few candidates that we could probably throw in there. Obviously, you've got sort of the likes of Andy Frampton, who won the fans round. I'm trying to think now. Scotty Barron, who obviously, him and Framps and TC had a bit of a tussle. Tony Craig, who obviously loved to bits and just fought for me. Seeing him go from his own journey just as a Millwall fan to then establishing himself and playing left back here, I always enjoyed playing. And Tony had a great mentality, and it was always great to, when you walk on a pitch, he'd be at it and someone that you could rely on. And And obviously Robbie Ryan was a good player as well early on, but I think I'd probably have to go with Tony Craig on that one at left back.
And if there is one player that Millwall fans want to see playing, it is Tony Craig, because no matter whether he got kicked in the face, kicked anywhere else, he was still there. I remember him playing with a mask a few times as well. You just talk about the Wembley game against Swindon. I think he was on the pitch afterwards on crutches, celebrating. Perfect Millwall man to have in your team.
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, I think Gareth Ainsworth tried his best to rearrange his face a couple of times, didn't he? So, Tony Craig every day.
Now, you can pick yourself, but I'm after 2 centre-backs.
Go on, pick yourself.
I'd always pick myself, just a chance to play for Millwall again. But I wouldn't say I was in my 11. I think, like I say, Wardy, when I broke through, and probably out of all those games, I probably played about 150 to 200 with Wardy. So we struck up a real good partnership. Worked really well as a pair. And enjoyed playing with him. Obviously, he had Danny Shitu as well. I played not loads with, but a fair few occasions before he went to QPR, and then came back again. It's a really, really, really difficult one. Stuart Nethercott, obviously, early on took a lot of advice from him. He was really good for me as a younger pro in my time here. That's a really difficult one.
And on the subject of Darren Ward, of course, nicknamed the Peckham Beckham.
Exactly, or Shirley amongst the lads because of his long blonde hair.
Well, I was just about to say, did he get much stick in the dressing room? Because I remember he had kind of that half mullet, half something else in his later days at the club as well.
He got a lot of stick. Wardy got a lot of stick, yeah. Especially in that group, like I say, Wisey, Muzzy and all of them to see, and even Ray was on him all the time. This tall, strapping, blonde-haired, long flowing locks, they were on him permanently. And some of his tendencies as well, Wardy, he could be a bit of an interesting one.
You didn't paint his cattery, did you? I know he's looking at volunteers one to do that.
He's still got it as well, hasn't he? I think. Yeah, I think so. So yeah. That's a toughie. That's a really tough one. Go on, I'll stick myself in there. I've got to play in that Millwall 11. Yeah, any opportunity to put on that shirt with a line on my chest, I'll play in that.
Fair enough. Okay, into the midfield. Right midfield and left midfield. Many, many talented players over the years in these positions at the Den.
Cool. Right midfield, I'd probably have to go... I think I'd probably have to go Stephen Reid. I'd say didn't play loads with him, but the times I did play, and what a player he was. He was just a step ahead, and you could tell that he was going to go on to a high level even then. And the way he struck the football was different class, absolutely different class. So I'd go Stephen Reid. Centre mid. This is a tough area. There's a lot to go in there.
That is a really difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got the likes of Timmy, Wisey, but then you've got Jimmy, Trots as well, who've done well for us.
You've got a strong bench, nevertheless.
Strong bench, really strong bench.
Strong bench.
Left midfield, I'll tell you one of the most talented players to play with was Ryan Smith. Everyone forgets about him.
Okay.
But as a player, he was some player.
I like that.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's out of left field, but it is left field as well.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
As one coming through, he was honestly probably one of the, whether I'd say he's a greatest Millwall 11, but definitely, like I say, when he first come and he must have spent about 10 games for us, and he was unplayable. The other opposition players couldn't get near him, and he thought, flipping it, we've got a player on our hands here. Fortunately for him, he just couldn't stay fit enough and play enough games for us, really. So he'd be one under consideration on the left as well.
Just going back to Stephen Reid, obviously I remember a goal against Oldham here when we won the league on the final day. Again, like the goal for Blackburn, probably still been travelling now if it didn't hit the back of the net. Did he try them in training, or did he just save them for a match day?
No, a bit of both. He'd do it in training. He was always working on his game. He'd always be working on striking and shooting and that. So yeah, he'd done there. And then there was even another one in the game I played. It was a half volley against Sheffield Wednesday. It sort of come out from a corner and he just half volleyed it in the top corner. I was like just to be next to it as it's happening. I'm like, oh my god. So yeah, I mean Paul Eiffel as well. Played a lot with Ice. It was a good squad. Just trying to think who else left sider. Scoey. Got a lot of time for Scoey. Yeah. Danny Schofield was good for us, wasn't he? Talented boy.
Okay, well let's move into the middle. Again, a lot of choice, but who would your 2 central midfielders be?
I think I'd go with and he got Livers as well. You forget about Livers and what a good job he done here for the club over the years too. I think I'd have to probably go with Wisey and Timmy just for those two players.
And did you ever notice that Tim, from a very young age, was going to go on to big things?
I think that what he did have, he always had that knack. It'd be like 1-0 Millwall, Cahill. Like he had that knack of arriving in a box, scoring a good goal. I think what I would say is, I think for me, he looked and it was almost like sometimes that took away from what a good player really was as well, and his energy and just the way he played. I thought he was nasty, like not nasty as in like horrible nasty, as in he'd put his foot in and tackle as well. He had that side to him as well, where again, which makes you successful here. So I think he kind of had all of those attributes that maybe people don't see as much.
You got quite the 11 building, but let's finish it off now. 2 strikers. Who's going to get your goals?
Yeah, so I'd have to go Neal Harris, definitely. Every time, just for a whole host of reasons, on and off the pitch. But Neal Harris, coming through when he was when I was a youngster coming through, trying to mark him in training, and he was like, at that time he nearly went to Spurs. He was on, that far ahead of his game. It would just be like I'd actually kick him just because he was already 3 yards ahead of me, and you're just trying to I'd be just getting there late. Not that I was trying to go deliberately to go, and he was just that far ahead of you in the game.
You think you would have gone to a Premier League club had it not been for that illness?
I think maybe he would have done. Yeah. I think that. Yeah, I think Spurs was nearly enough done from what I'm led to believe at that time, and then obviously he went through what he went through and never got that opportunity again. Really.
What was he like off the pitch for you?
Just, like I say, we roomed together quite a lot. Just a good person in terms of everything about him. He's again someone else with charisma, but at that Millwall edge, but then also had that nurturing care inside, and would take care of lads and be very kind of astute in terms of dealing with people. And I think just everything about him as a character, I always just admired and respected him. But then we always got on well.
Did you ever have that inkling that he'd go into management at all?
Yeah, 100%. He phoned me about it when he was offered the job and said, "What do you think?" And I said, I always saw you taking it. I always saw you being the Millwall manager. Ever since you were coming through, so it was absolutely no surprise to me. Maybe it was a little bit earlier than maybe he thought it might come along, but it came along, and like I say, his record on the pitch, off the pitch, everything about him just speaks for itself, and what this football club means to him as well as what he means to the football club.
And who plays alongside him in your greatest Millwall 11?
I know, it's tough when you've got the likes of Harry Kane. Yeah,
he's done alright, hasn't he?
I know, he's done alright.
What happened to him?
Steve Morrison, perhaps?
Morrow as well. That's what I mean. You've got Morrow, Harry Kane. It's a tough choice. To what Harry Kane went on to achieve, but I think I'd probably have to just edge towards probably Morrow, just out of playing with him more and what he did for the club as well in 2 spells. To be fair to Harry Kane, I didn't see him. I thought he'd done really well for us, but for what he's gone on to achieve is absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal in terms of the success he's achieved.
But on the subject of Morrow, it took a while to get him going really in the goal scoring charts. I think a game against MK Dons at home might really jog the memory, but once he did get going, he was just an absolutely lethal striker in front of goal, wasn't he?
Exactly. Just that real striker's instinct, but then didn't lose that non-league mentality of working hard and running the channels. And he had that pace as well, didn't he? He was what people look for now in a modern striker, aren't they? 6'2",
Centre-half didn't know whether to go out to the right with him or leave him to the full-back, and he's just going between the pair. But with the game at Staines, when he missed the online one, his confidence was low.
Yes.
But then after that, I think that was the game where he famously says himself that Kenny had him up against the wall in the dressing room, saying, "Look, you need to make sure you're a Millwall player." And after that, as you said, didn't look back.
No, he done well.
And who manages that team?
Again, it's a few candidates. Mark McGee obviously gave me my debut. He got Wisey as well in what he did. But for me, I think just for what he done for my own career, I'd have to go with Kenny every time. And in terms of what he did for me. I think another one I think of as well that done well for us, actually thinking of the left side, was Andros Townsend as well. Come in and done well for us, didn't he? Done really well in a little spell there. So yeah, I'll have to think about that left side a little bit more. It might be one that the manager sleeps on and then lets you know in the morning.